Well, it's safe to say that the Dhelmise video aged horribly. So about 3 weeks ago, as of recording this, I made a video talking about how if Dhelmise is in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it could be a stronger Pokemon, maybe even broken. The thing is, at the time of that video, we didn't know how Terastal was going to work exactly in terms of the multiplayer. The only information that we had to go off of was Centro and other leakers, and of course Centro's example with Magnemite, how if it turns into a Terra normal type, it loses a Steel and Electric, but if it turns into a Terra Steel type, then that Steel type will be incredibly stronger. So from my Dhelmise video explaining how Dhelmise could be really broken to right now, what's exactly changed in terms of Scarlet and Violet news? Well, some YouTubers were invited out by Nintendo, Game Freak, whatever, to play a old build of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I have to say old build because from what I've seen, the gameplay, the menu, and the frame rate, yeah, they're pretty concerning. Very, very concerning. So I'm gonna trust that it's an old build, like an actual old build, and nothing recent, nothing current. But anyway, to get to the point, now that, some people are able to get their, hands on Scarlet and Violet, play around a bit, and etc., well, because of that build, we now know how terrestrialization actually works. We now know how the whole changing typing thing sort of works. We now know how the multiplier works. So, yeah. And as you saw in Centro's tweet of how stab moves are still preserved even after changing into like a terrestrialized water type if you're Charizard, as the example showed. But now we have a bit of a website sort of simulation where, we get to test out our Terra type dragon on a Lucario, and I'll show my screen recording to kind of explain my thought process involving Dhelmise. Now I know that Centro's tweet already showed the example with, Charizard, but I figured, why not show off Lucario, Scizor, and Dhelmise as well. Speaking of Dhelmise, I am kind of sad that the video I did is outdated. Like, oh my god, there are so many things about that video that I wish I could have done better. So, yeah, as you can see with Lucario right here, even after transforming into a Dragon Terra type, he will still have his stab boost for fighting and Steel typing. Honestly, I prefer that than what we initially thought, only because that could genuinely help out so many more Pokemon, and to me, makes competitive a lot more interesting. Now with Scizor, obviously, bit of a no-brainer. When it turns into a Terra Bug type, it will gain 2x stab for bug moves, and I talked about how Dhelmise would be really overpowered, but I didn't even get into Scizor or really any Pokemon with adaptability. You could probably tell I'm genuinely excited about the whole terrestrialized typing. And thinking about it, I don't think I've been this excited for a gimmick since Mega Evolutions. To get back on topic, we now have Dhelmise. Now, Dhelmise is a very interesting case. I brought up how broken he would be in my initial video, but now after this new information, he's not as broken as we thought. Well, as I thought anyway. Regardless of that, however, if Dhelmise is in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because truthfully, we still don't know yet unless a leak came out revealing, hey, these are the Pokemon from the past generations that are going to be in. And if it is, and sorry for repeating myself, then yeah, Dhelmise is going to be a really strong Pokemon. While I could be wrong about this, I also want to bring up the fact on how Dhelmise is possibly the only Pokemon that is going to have its 2 regular stabs, while also gaining its 2x stab boost when it turns into a Stera? When it turns into its Why do I keep saying Stera? When it turns into its Terra Steel type. There we go. terribly sorry about that. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, I actually like the idea, or at least the thought of the fact on how with other Pokemon, it's more or less pick your poison, while with Dhelmise, it's not. You get really all the benefits. What I mean by this is that in later game, this is from what we understand from leaks, by the way. In the later game, we are going to be able to get the option to, change the Terra type of our Pokemon. I'm assuming this will be post-game content, so most likely we'll be able to do it at the Battle Tower, kind of similar to how at the Battle Tower, we were able to use the bottle caps to then hyper train our Pokemon. So when you are able to make the choice, you have two options. You could either go with option 1, having your Pokemon have 3 types, but they all do just regular stab damage, or have your Pokemon have 2 types, but one of them will be 2 times damage instead of the 1.5. And as I said before, or at least implied, Dhelmise doesn't have that restriction. It gets the benefits of both worlds. Having 3 moves that are stab, like option 1, and having one of the types, whether it's Steel, Ghost, or Grass, be a 2 times multiplier, while the other 2 are just a standard 1.5 multiplier. But for me personally, with Dhelmise, I am absolutely going to go for the Terastal type. With Anchor Shot, now instead of being a base 80, it's going to be 160 damage when it turns into a Terastal type. So that's going to be insane. And oh my god, Gyro Ball. I can only imagine what Gyro Ball is going to do. And you know what, before I wrap up the video, I'll quickly show you what I'm planning to do with my Dhelmise for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So as you can see right here, I'm planning to put an Assault Vest on him so that its special defense can, gain a bit more bulk. But in all honesty, Choice Band, Choice Scarf, Life Orb, or even Leftovers I think would be just as good on Dhelmise. It really depends on what you want to go for. For stats, I have mine in Adamant Nature, 252 in Attack, 252 in Health, and of course 4 in Speed. But in all honesty, that entirely depends on what you want to do. Instead of doing Speed, I ended up giving that extra little bit to Special Defense, I think. Was it Special Defense or Defense? I'm pretty sure it was Special Defense. Nature is quite similar. I did Adamant Nature because I really like Adamant Nature, and because I'm not going to use my special attack anyway. But at the same time, I do think it'd actually be a pretty smart idea to give it the nature that increases its attack, but decreases its speed. That way Gyro Ball can do a hell lot more damage. But again, that entirely depends on you and what you want to do. For me personally, I want to have a little bit more speed on Dhelmise just in case, so I may not go for it, but at the same time, if you're unhappy with one nature and you're thinking, maybe I want to try plus attack and minus speed instead, then hey, go right ahead. After all, we do have the mints that, change the nature of the Pokemon. As for its moveset, I am using Smogon's moveset for Dhelmise because even without Smogon, I feel like this is probably the best moveset for Dhelmise regardless on how you feel about Smogon in general. Anchor Shot because, Anchor Shot. Gyro Ball because you want to take advantage of that slow speed. Power Whip because you really want a strong grass attack. And of course Phantom Force because in general it's a really good ghost type move, making it so that you can't get hit on the first turn, and of course you're able to attack on the second turn. And while you could put Swords Dance on it, I wouldn't exactly recommend it. Because yes, it would make Dhelmise incredibly stronger, but at the same time, Dhelmise isn't exactly a tanky Pokemon. It can take hits, but you gotta be mindful of what you're facing at the same time. Not to mention, Dhelmise is already a pretty strong attacker as it is, so putting Swords Dance on it, again, can make it stronger, absolutely. But it'd be sort of a waste. But again, it is entirely up to you. If you want to put Swords Dance on it instead of Gyro Ball, then go right ahead. I'd say that Gyro Ball is the only one that is switchable. The other 3, I recommend keeping on Dhelmise. But regardless of what you're going to do, that's the end of the video. Sorry this video may have been a bit longer than it should have been. I just thought, you know what, why not tackle 2 topics in one video? So that is exactly what I did. Until then, hope you guys have a wonderful day, evening, and or night. And I'll catch you guys in a tier list video. What is it going to be about? Take a guess. And no, it is not Overwatch. I don't think I'm going to do that sort of tier list anytime soon. But anyway, until then, laters.